welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a two-part video. I'm talking about propagations again, my favorite topic with the pothos and the aeroid plants. A couple things. I am going to attempt to make a high humidity / propagation box. So it's a different method of propagating your clippings, and hence the propagation box name, and high humidity for certain plants like my alocasia that like it, and I needed some place to do that. I was looking for different cloches to use. I know there's the IKEA one that's very popular with other plant people, but I find that it's really small plants that fit in the brass colored IKEA ones. I found dollar store ones that are like wider and bigger, but they're still not very tall. So something even like this takes up most of it, so that's not really good for long term. So I need a bigger container to do it in. And since this is the container that I'm going to be turning into a high humidity box or propagation box, it doesn't need to be on display. It's mainly going to stay with the other plants in my grow light stand. It doesn't have to be the prettiest thing in the world, but you know, should be functional for what I want to do. When you're propagating, humidity really helps the nodes that you put in your medium, either sphagnum moss or soil, to really like push out the roots and to grow. For pothos, they don't like to be sitting in it for like long periods of time, like as in putting this in a high humidity box, because you'll end up having issues with mold and other problems with the plants themselves. But for propagating, it's supposed to be really good and it's supposed to really help in that sense. And the reason I'm looking at yet another method of propagation is because I've had some weirdness going on. These clippings have been in these cups with the water on the heated mats. It's what's it called? Fertilized water. Had air stones in the water for like 3 going on 4 months, and it's barely anything of roots. Even that was the aerial roots there that's kind of died off, and look at that. That's the only thing that's on there. You can see by all the stuff that with the air bubbles splatting up and leaving a residue on the leaves. They've been here for a long period of time. The same thing, this one, this had a long aerial root to begin with, but it never developed any tertiary roots or anything like that. This is the only sprig on there. And I can go through all of these and it's the same thing. This one is not too bad. Same thing with this one, but very little development at all. Let me take out these other ones just to see. Yeah, it's like they've just stalled. They're not doing anything, which is weird, because when I first introduced this method to you, like within a couple weeks I saw results, but I don't know if it's this particular plant, because these leaves came off of Big Ben, the pothos that I have in the powder room on the main floor, that's growing up the 4 foot tall what's it called, moss pole. But I don't see why that would make any difference. So like literally like 4 months now, and this is the only root growth I've gotten from it. Just as a comparison, these two, I think these weren't from Big Ben, but another one of the pothos that was trailing, and I just cut and clipped this. And this has barely been a month, and yet look at all the root growth on these. So I did a stem cutting instead of the regular node cutting for this one, because I was anxious to try to put these on poles to see if they grow any faster. But let's take out the other ones. Still better results on all of these. Oops. Let's see this again. Yep, good roots, good roots. Like all of these are ready to pot up. I don't know what happened with these ones. And this was just not aerated, just sitting on the heating mat in the fertilized water. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's the air stone that needs to be cleaned out. I have no idea. But that's what sparked me about thinking about another method of propagation. The water propagation still does work, hence these here. I don't know why this stalled out, but I'm hoping the propagation box or the high humidity will have better results, and we'll see once I actually do it. Something else I wanted to talk about as well, I believe it was this one. I talked about after you're water propagating and it's ready to, it has its roots and you want to pot it up, to not to put them directly into an aeroid mix because they've been used to being in water. The problem with the aeroid mix is it's too airy. It's good for when you eventually move them in here, but what happens is right from the water into a mix like this, when you go to water this, the water just runs right through. It doesn't really retain it, which is what you want when the plant is mature. But when it's still establishing, it's not that great. And here's the result. This is about, I would say, 2 to 3 months. And the plant hasn't died, but it's only now pushing out new leaves. And it's basically been like this for how many months? This one in comparison, I put it in a small pot with just my regular indoor potting soil mix, and it's actually trailing already. There's new growth all over the place. So this right now, I could leave it in here or for a little bit longer or pot it up, but at this point, it's ready to move to the aeroid mix and it will take off. And that's what I did with these clippings. And you can see how much better and healthier this is. This is several months growth, but this was in potting soil mix before I moved it up to the bigger pot and to the aeroid mix, and you can see the difference with the growth on that. The other thing I want to point out is the moss poles. Big Ben in the washroom, the moss pole is filled with cocoa coconut husk. It's filled with that. Most moss poles that you see online or people talk about them, they use sphagnum moss, and that's what I used in this. And sphagnum moss is more expensive than the cocoa core or the coconut hair. Oh man, I hate that word. But I think it's neater because as the coconut core moss pole that I have, Big Ben is on, as it dries out, it kind of crumbles and it makes a crumbly mess all over around. It's on the leaves, it's on the counter and everything, and it's a bit of a mess. The sphagnum moss does not do that. It just dries out. So going forward, I think it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but I think I'm going to continue with the sphagnum moss and use it in the moss poles. This particular plant was once again just an experiment, and once again the clippings went right from the water right into the pot. It's been several months and same thing. Leaves haven't died, but you haven't seen it like flush out like this one has. I also did an experiment, especially with this vine right here. This vine I just stuck in at the bottom of the moss pole and bound it to the top, and it didn't have any leaves on it. And lo and behold, it's pushing out a leaf. This was my first experiment to see if I could get the trailing vine, which this tall one here, I had just sitting in water like I did with these, and put it right onto the moss pole to see if it'll climb any faster up the moss pole. It didn't really climb up any faster, and the leaves didn't all of a sudden get big, but it is still alive and still growing. This whole section here is new, but I haven't really seen any advantage to putting the vine directly in the pot and on the pole, instead of letting it flush out, grow like this, and then taking one of these vines that are now stringing out and putting it on the moss pole. I'm still going to put these in a pot and put it on a moss bowl as well. If not this pot, then I'll start another pot with it, just to verify. This was a thin vine with small leaves. This one is a little bit bigger than the previous one, but it's not a massive improvement. These vines and these leaves are much bigger to start off with, so we'll see what happens when we put these on a pole. Anyways, we're going to go to part 2 of this video now, where I'm actually going to show you the process to build the humidity propagation box and what's involved with that. The audio got messed up in this section, so I'm just going to do a voiceover. These are the bins that I plan on using. They're large bins. They are 30 inch by 19 inch by 13 inch high. Very large bins, perfect for the alocasias, and more than enough room for a whole bin of propagations if I need to put in there. Very good size. If I get begonias or whatever, I can also use the same bin as these for the alocasias. These are the tools I'm going to use. This is a set square, screwdriver. The brass instrument there is a punch down tool for making marks. Allen key set, some pens and markers to make marks, obviously. Super glue, I'll explain that in a second. Measuring tape, X-Acto knife, and heat shrink tubing to go on the ends of the lights. This is to help prevent any moisture or water getting into the electrical ends. They are marine grade. They have glue on the inside that really helps seal out moisture. I'm also using a large lighter instead of a heat gun, which I don't have on this heat shrink tubing. The super glue was to give an extra layer of protection if I need it, but that's optional. These are the lights I'm going to use. They're the same lights that I used on the grow stand, the mega stand as it were. They're going to be mounted on the underside of the lid. They're 2 feet long, 24 inches. Same color temperature as the grow stand. They are 65 K temperature. They'll be mounted like this. They will be connected together with a connection cord and a power cord. All this comes with the lights when you get them. And these are lights that I had extra from the grow stand build. And I'll be doing 2 sets of these, 2 bins. The mounting hardware is very simple. When you get these lights, they come with different mounting brackets. The ones I'm going to use are these little silver ones. You basically just screw them on, and then they clip onto the lights. So I'm going to put 2 mounts on the underside of the lid for each light, so they hang off that way. I'll also have to drill an access hole on the side so that the power cord can come out. That should be it. Let's get started with the build. This is just a close-up view of the mounting brackets after they've been attached. There will be 4 of them because you have 2 for each set of light, and on the other side is just a little bolt. This is just a close-up of me putting a rubber grommet on the end of the power cable and putting it through around the access hole that I drilled on the side of the container. I did want it to be more watertight than it is. You can see an air gap there, but it does make for a clean hole, and there's no abrasion on the cord as it passes through. Now I am preparing to do the heat shrink wrapping around the ends of the lights. I've decided to use black heat shrink tubing instead of the red. I did a test with the red one, and since I'm using an open flame with the lighter instead of a heat gun, it leaves a black sooty residue on the heat shrink tubing, which doesn't look very good. I tried cleaning it up with some Varsol, but it didn't really clean up well, so I'm switching to the black one. So I'm just putting enough of the tubing to cover the point where the cable gets plugged into the light fixture, and maybe an inch of the cord itself also gets shrink wrapped with this tubing. As I mentioned before, this is marine grade heat shrink tubing, so it has an adhesive or glue on the inside that melts and sticks to the surface that you're heat shrink wrapping, and it just makes for a better, tighter seal of both the light fixtures and the cables. It's designed to be used in boats and areas where there's going to be moisture. I need the glove to kind of squish everything together at the end to make sure everything has a good contact, and this thing really does heat up, so the gloves help protect my hands a little bit. It's pretty straightforward. You just light the lighter or turn on the heat gun and just go back and forth on the tubing, and you can see a little bit in here that it starts to shrink. It takes a while, you have to go back and forth, and this is where a heat gun would be quicker, but you can actually see it starting to shrink and to form around it. So this takes a little while, back and forth, until it is shrunken to the point where everything is snug in place. So now at this point, I put on the glove and I'm just squishing everything together to make sure that there's good contact and that the seal is good. Like I said, it's really hot, so the glove helps me not burn my hands. So there you go. That's one completed end. I cleaned it up a bit. I want to try to give you, the camera will focus here. I'll try to give you a closer look. And you can see it's formed to the light, to the cable, and the ends have been squashed together. So now we just need to do this 3 more times. Okay, this is the completed light box, humidity box slash propagation box with the lights that I put in there. The project is pretty straightforward. Anyone can do this. If you are looking to get the light strips, they're about, I believe they're like $39-40 on Amazon for 2. Of course, it gets cheaper if you get like a set of 12, but you might not need a set of 12 for anything. But yeah, the box itself, if you were to buy this at Walmart, I believe that's $25. I built actually 2, one for high humidity, which is over here. This is my first time running it tonight, so we'll see how that goes in the morning. I just have the spider plants in there right now. There you go. And this one I'll be using for propagations. That's it for the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Hope it's somewhat useful. Hope I didn't babble too much. And have a great week. See you later.